is Kim. My experience in living in New York and living outside of New York is something that I think is a slightly unique situation that I want to share with you. When I finished graduate school at LISD about 10 years ago, I knew that I was very interested in making project-based work. It was not necessarily going to be gallery-oriented work. And so one of the things that I realized was that I was going to have other kinds of jobs to support myself, that I wasn't necessarily going to be able to rely on selling my work as a way to live as an artist. So right after graduate school, I lived in Providence and I lived in New York and commuted back and forth, and I had jobs as a graphic designer. And I quickly realized that I wasn't actually all that interested in doing graphic design, and I became really frustrated with spending so much of my energy and time doing this other thing. So I decided that I wanted to actually teach, and not just teach an adjunct, but actually find a teaching position. So I have since been working as a professor at Carnegie Mellon in Pittsburgh, and I basically found a way to live in New York or have a studio in New York and commute between my position there and being here at different times. So I've had a number of artist residencies. In 2001, I actually had a residency at the International Studio and Curatorial Program. And then through the years, I've had other residencies at the Vermont Studio Center, at the Virginia Center for Creative Arts. I was at one point awarded a residency at the Cité Internationale des Arts in Paris. And I'm currently at the Marie Walsharp Studio Program. And so I basically found a way to have this career where teaching is really where the bulk of my income comes from. And then residencies have been a way for me to really have dedicated time to spend into work. And a lot of the network that I've created has really come from being able to make friends at the different residencies that I've gone to. My experiences in having exhibitions and other grant opportunities have often come from friendships that I've made with people. So that rather than going out and trying to network in a way that feels kind of phony and distant and impossible to talk to somebody you don't know, usually I just started with people that I've actually become friends with. And I found that the artist community actually is really supportive of itself and of each other. And I try to reciprocate with my friends as well by curating exhibitions, which I've done several times. I also apply for everything that I possibly can. And I attended one of the workshops that Jeffrey mentioned, one of the Creative Capital workshops. It goes around the country, and they help artists, figure out things like how to send out packets and other things like that. But somebody told me a really great little nugget of wisdom, which I've held on to, which is that if you're not getting rejection letters regularly, then you're not applying for enough stuff. So just keep sending things out and don't feel bad when you get rejected, because there's a mountain of other people who are equally interesting and qualified also applying. And a lot of it is just luck of the draw. Sometimes you have to apply a number of times before you get something, and sometimes you just happen to, or friends of yours will happen to get something the first time.
I waited, I didn't hear from the slide.
I came to New York, not as a young artist out of graduate school. I came to New York as an artist coming out of Ohio. But before I did that, I did send some slides to a gallery in New York called the Alternative Museum. I waited, I didn't hear from the slide until I was looking at it about 3 months. And I went back into the gallery that day, and then I just asked the guy to get a chance to look at it, and said, oh yeah, I looked at it, and the work is too good. We're not doing this kind of work. We're only doing bad art. Bad art. It's really good art, like film trials and things like that. And you're doing a lot of political work. But it was okay. It was okay. So I got back behind it, kind of pissed me off a little bit. So 3 months later, I sent him three slides. And I waited like a few weeks, and I didn't hear anything. I came back to New York, said, oh, and it was Jack, and he was calling me. And I said, John, he says, yeah, John, can you do a show in October? I'm retired of bad art. So as soon as I walked outside the door, I said, shit, Jack, he was like that, man. And so that was my first show in New York. I got a gallery right away. After getting there a year, I had my first show, getting a show in the gallery. A new gallery, beautiful gallery. Very good artists, got a lot of attention. My show got reviewed in the New York Times. I had one show each year in that gallery, 3 shows in a row. Each one got reviewed in the Times, Art America, and I sold a lot of work. I've never been to an artist residency. I never applied to an artist residency. I've gotten a lot of grants from Don Mitchell, grants. You can't apply to get nominated. There's one that was anonymous grant. And I've done a lot of panels, NEA, and so forth. It was nice work. So I say I've been lucky. I haven't had to take a job where you dealing with concrete or anything. I have taught. I have mostly been visiting artists at a lot of the schools like this, their spring semester, and she also helped out their first semester. And all of that stuff came because of the response to my work. So the number one thing that the artist has to have is work, body of work they're committed to, that in some way separates that person out from the herd.
Situation of,
I think one of the things that I'm kind of interested in having each of you address is because there, of course, is this situation where each of us are looking to kind of collaborate with galleries, with museums, or other institutions that will support the work. But I think that the kind of situation of, oftentimes we get kind of forced into this path where we're like putting the cart before the horse. And I think in terms of the development of one's own work, that's really the kind of vital thing that we're moving towards in terms of just having a sustainable practice. And I wonder if each of you can talk a little bit about how maybe coming here, how you established a kind of sense of community, if that was important for you in your work, in having a group of people who you talk to specifically to say, like, hey, I'm having this problem, like, here's this piece that I'm working on, here's a painting that I'm working on, just to really start to generate a dialogue so that the practice does start to become more self-sustaining.
I've actually found that it's been really important for me to have a community of people around because it's a way of finding people or having, whether it's just a few friends, but people who I can really talk with about the projects that I'm thinking about. There's something about the agency that's involved, your personal agency that you bring to the struggle of creating your own practice and developing your own career, which has been really important for me. I've been lucky, but I also feel like I've struggled a lot to do things and haven't just kind of fallen into all the things. And it is hard sometimes to maintain your sense of hope and not depression and bitterness, and to remember that you just have to kind of continue to have as much agency as you can in developing the group of people who do sustain you, who are your friends, who help you through the times where you're completely confused about literally what's going on in your artwork, whether it's in a studio or at your kitchen table. But the idea of residencies for me has been a really great way to build those connections. I mean, this year at the Marie Walsh Art Program, there's been it's great to be around these terrific people who all have very different ways of working. And the exposure to different approaches to having an art practice has been so interesting. There are painters who go in every day and build a painting one after the next, and then there are some of us who are more, project oriented. And it's just been really great for me to understand all the different ways that a person can be involved in their practice. And then also, the last thing is, there are so many different ways of having a career. Every career is unique. And being around so many different artists and residencies has helped me value my own career and understand that, this is the path that I'm shaping and taking and finding and being lucky enough to find me. But, we each have our own experience. So having a community has helped me kind of start to live in what my own